For sure. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome. Thanks for coming tonight. We've been doing this every Thursday. I'll warn you, like I warn everybody every Thursday. This is pretty novice. I'm not so great at the live streams, but I'm trying to get better. It's kind of scary for me, but I figure just keep trying. Eventually, you'll get better. I'm like, if you ever watch Always Sunny, I'm like D trying stand-up comedy. Only I'm not projectile vomiting when I'm doing this. I'm not far off though. So, brought everybody here. We got a chat room here in Discord that is filled with people right now. Let me see if I can bring that up. There we go. And I had the Trump event. It's actually over. It actually just ended like right around 9. So, and yeah, the lighting is it's really dark. I forgot to turn on my lighting there, but you know, I figured for nighttime streams I'll do kind of a darker set here. So, so we got a bunch of people here in the live events channel on Discord. If you'd like to join us, I will put the link in the live chat so you can join us. I put in the description, you know, is systemic racism a real thing as a topic? Excuse me. But we don't necessarily have to do that. It's a topic that really interests me because, you know, mainly because the media, they act like it's just a real thing. They don't even question it. It struck me today, you know, all these protesters and stuff, if you watch the live streams, and which I watch a lot of them, they're just constantly saying and shouting a lot of things. There's things on their side, a lot of just unsubstantiated BS that, like, it's like, why doesn't this get questioned by anybody? Like, it gets questioned by us, but as far as the mainstream goes, like, I don't think teachers are questioning. These kids, like, shout these things. For instance, I just watched a video where the protesters were screaming at the police, and one of them was saying, oh, some of y'all gotta die. He's like, some of y'all gotta die because so many of us are dying. Some of y'all gotta die now. And it's like, do you have any idea how many cops die every year? Like, way more than black males or black people. Way more. It's like not even close. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but it's not even comparable. And, you know, that's cops of all colors. And, you know, as we all know, the vast majority of black people were killed by other black people. And that is true with all groups, but within the black community, it's way higher. And there's way higher rates of it than other groups. So I guess I'm just asking, and I don't think it's just a bunch of old flaky white folks here that we have here in Discord. I think we have some glorious people of color in here to join us and give their perspective, because I personally, I really value them, and I haven't really heard Puppy Lord yet, and I think we have somebody else, but Bricks is in there, and he's a real smart guy, and I always value what he has to say. John Arnett, thank you, man, for the $2. Appreciate it. So, yeah, let's get into chat here. I don't know if you guys want to watch some of this rally or not, but let's go ahead and I'm going to go in here and see what these guys are talking about.
Because all of us can concur that it was immoral what they did.
Oh, shoot.
For sure.
Plus, they had FBI infiltrating the shit out of them.
Yeah, that's how they RICO'd them. But the deal was that they wasn't out breaking all kinds of laws, and then it broke up the Klan. They RICO'd them to break up the Klan. How? And it wasn't because it was out breaking laws, because hating somebody of a different color is not against the law, obviously, because there's a bunch of white people that are dressed all up in black that are in Portland that hate black people and think that they're simpletons. This is the problem that we have. They're like, well, these people can't even vote for themselves. They have no driver's license. They have no shoes. They have no cars. They can't get out and vote. What are you guys trying to do to them? And it's
Their
like,
pets' heads are falling
what?
off.
What the fuck you saying?
Well,
They're dumb?
that's where mail-in voting comes in. That way, their mommy and daddy can fill it out for them, and then
Correct.
send it to mail.
Rex, don't you feel that way? Don't you feel that way? Because they're like, you don't have a driver's license to be able to go vote, bro.
Oh no, that's an old played out stereo. That's completely. We all got licenses. We are, or if anything, we all have IDs.
Yep.
We can't. You can barely get a job now. You can still use your social security card and your birth certificate, but you can barely get a job without an ID. I don't
You
know.
can't do shit without
I don't
it.
know even know a 16-year-old that doesn't have an ID. But back before I was red pill, was them taking away like mostly the polling places, voter suppression. I mean, they're just now starting to bring that back up again. I don't know why that's. Well, I know why it's coming back up because they're just trying everything in their in their box.
Kitchen sink.
But it used to be, voter suppression by taking away ballot polling locations and stuff like that. And
Guys,
if population density changes, you're not going to have 5 polling locations in an area that's like in Detroit. Okay, Detroit is predominantly black. Now, Detroit used to be a population of over 800,000 people, almost 1 million people, 897,000, I believe.
Right
now, when all the white people left, the white flight, and they moved to the suburbs, then you had the population density change from mostly 80% black, 20% white. Now, the polling locations, okay, they're not going to have them all over the city anymore. So that was a talking point that Democrats used and said, oh, they're doing voter suppression because they're taking away polling locations. It's only 2 people that live on the street.
Yeah, right.
Hey guys.
You can't. We're taking this. Well, that person now has to commute 30 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's only 2 people that live here now.
Yeah.
And everything else is abandoned. So. Yeah. So it's all how you frame it.
Tech.
It's all how you frame it.
Hey guys. Hey, sorry to butt in here. So yeah, everybody's watching now. I pretty much just kind of introduced. I didn't introduce you guys, but I just let everybody know, what kind of group we have here, a little diverse group. And I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about. I got some topics here we can all bounce off. But since we're on the race thing already, like we already got there.
Of course.
So I went ahead and just titled the stream like, "Is systemic racism, a real thing?" And I asked that like genuinely because if it's a real thing, like I'm against it. But as far as I can tell, it's not, or at least it's not nearly like. I don't think it is nearly what the media and stuff says. The left says it. And here's why this interests me, because, as I said in the intro here to the stream, the media and the Democrats just act like they don't even question any of it. It's just like it exists. It's like this Marxist mantra has just sort of been adopted overnight, and now they just all repeat it, and there's no questioning it. And like I saw this video. I don't know if you guys saw it of BLM protesters screaming, some young kid screaming at some cops, saying, "Oh no, some of y'all gotta get killed because we keep getting killed. So now some of y'all gonna get killed." It's like, how ignorant is that? Like, way more cops get killed than like black people, And it's like who's questioning it? It's like if it airs on CNN, they're not even gonna, when these people say this stuff, they never even question it. So my question is, what is the evidence that it's a real thing? What? Because there's lots of evidence to the contrary that just kind of gets ignored.
It does exist. And I'll tell you, Brex and me was just discussing that. So go ahead, Brex. Yeah. Me and you was just discussing their systemic racism that they have towards black people.
Well, tell me.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, we was. Because listen, they can say that Brex can't vote because he's black. And he ain't got no driver's license. He ain't got no car. He ain't got no shoes. He ain't got no way to get to the next polling station. He's just a poor black man. That's their racism.
I see,
That's
yeah.
systemic racism does exist. It exists in them. It
Oh
exists
yeah,
in their heads.
it exists in
It's
the
in their
Democrats.
brains. It's affecting them. It's like pus
They
pouring
see
out of their
blacks
ears.
as inferior,
They
and
do.
that they have to help them.
Yes. They're the
Yeah.
good white people that have to help the poor black people because they can't do anything because they're dumb and they have no driver's license.
So
Right.
Here's what bugs me too is like when we deal with these police shootings, and I dealt with this firsthand when I went to this anti-gun rally here in my city, but they just sort of blanket say anytime a black person is shot by a cop, this is somehow some like egregious thing that must never happen. And it's like, I went to this rally and I asked some of these people, I'm like, are you saying that like anytime, like, because there are legitimate reasons that people get shot, and it's like they don't even know what to say to that. Like it's strange to me, and so it's like we're not even allowed to distinguish between these shootings. So that's kind of crazy. I think.
Yeah, these things
Yeah,
are all based on presumption, is what it is. Like it's all presumption, right? Because, for example, in policy debate, it was a sport that's been pretty popular in the U.S. for about 60 years now. The worst outcome would to be actually winning that debate on presumption, meaning that the evidence didn't stack up, there was not sufficient evidence on either side, and therefore, because of what it seemed like, just the impressions that someone was able to put out, which is a dangerous thing because that's how all these advocates really talk, when it comes to the media, the major media output on these topics. And therefore, you say, like, yeah, you know what, it seems like these guys have more of the credence because of the way they're able to vocalize it, therefore I'm going to vote for them. That's what people are doing right now. And in terms of the systemic racism argument, I would say that there's two ways to go about it. One is systemic racism in the form of actual policy that is racist, right? I don't think there's anything like that. Or number two, the ways in which certain people's opportunities, or like the liberties that they have, are being infringed upon because of the nature of the infrastructure, right? Which would be, for example, people not being able to get from one place to another place, A to B, because of various things that have happened to them or because of their current circumstances. Now, we do actually subsidize various things, various amenities, various commodities in the US. We do that. Even luxuries, we do that. And I don't necessarily agree with it because the luxury is not essential. However, if someone were to come in and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to subsidize special voting transport, public transport. India did this actually for this year and the year before. Just tens of thousands of like vehicles coming out there, paid for by the government to get people to be able to exercise their right to vote as long as they want to. Then I'd say, like, yeah, that's something worthy coming out of my taxpayer dollars, So if they did that, then okay. But just because the infrastructural situation right now prevents certain people who might be a monolithic group as a result of race or not, does not matter. Just because the infrastructure disallows them from doing so to the best of their ability, I wouldn't say that's necessarily systemic racism. It's just because a lot of other things could have added up to that particular person's difficulty in being able to get to the voting station. You know what I mean?
Well, you said that there's no example of a law that actually is like systemically racist, and I would have to disagree there. There are policies, there are laws in place that actually are racist, but it's not the way that it doesn't break down exactly the way that the narrative goes. If you look at affirmative action is discriminatory. It discriminates against whites and Asians, but in its own backhanded way, it also discriminates against black people. Yes. Because it's basically saying you're not good enough to succeed. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to make things easier for you, and we're going to have to make things harder on the people who have historically been successful. So there is one example of systemic racism, but it completely obliterates the narrative, so they don't ever want to talk about it.
I think I know what you mean, like equity and equality, right? So enforcing outcomes, yes. In that case, I would say definitely there is systemic racism in terms of law. Yeah, that is true.
That's the only example I can think of, though. Beyond that,
discriminatory practices to try and level the playing field, I would say it's not exactly fair.
And that's where it's all about equal opportunity, not equality of outcome. The only thing that determines the outcome is the effort that you put forth.
It seems like
Harvard
the argument,
University.
I've seen a lot of these arguments kind of boil down to these studies that show that black people get arrested or cited more for jaywalking. Like that seems to be their because they'll point to other things like, oh, the incarceration rate, and then you can just be like, well, the crime rate, the high crime rate, and then they'll just say, oh, well, the poverty rate, and then you say, well, look at these other groups that are in poverty and also not committing crimes at those same rates. So there's something else going on. I'm not here making an argument that like, oh, black people are prone to crime, because I don't believe that's true. And it seems like the issues that we do have are pretty localized, right? I mean, they're pretty localized to specific areas, like these urban areas. Like black people throughout the rest of the country seem like they're doing just fine. I could be wrong.
Well, if that
I'm not
happens,
black,
then
I have
that
no
means there's a
idea.
difference, right? So, I mean, if you go by race, therefore, that's why what I like to say is there isn't a black community. There are black communities, because it depends
Right.
on whether people choose to band together as a result of, a particular cultural creed that they want to, give to their fellow black American. That's their choice to do that. So, of course, if you go into a lot of suburban areas, you'll find a lot of black Americans that are very well off. They follow a very different type of, let's say, life principle. And the same thing goes for many people of all different races, right, within the United States.
You mean the white
So I think
supremacists?
to,
Yeah.
yeah, right, that would be a very clear-cut example of a very different cultural creed. So
Right.
it really, at the end of the day, comes to culture, what your life principles are. And the danger comes when people start saying that, hey, you know what? If we have a material descriptor, so we are of this race, for example, that would be the material descriptor. Therefore, we should now band together and believe the same thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think
I
my mic went out. Yeah.
Oh.
So if people naturally get to that point, right? For
Yeah,
example,
no, it always boils down to identity politics because of pop culture, honestly.
and groupthink, yeah.
I just-
Here's the thing. In my opinion, what it's boiling down to is like you raising a child. If you're always there to catch them when they fall, they're never going to learn. You got to let people make mistakes, and you can't always be there to catch them. Having these systems in place that literally allows black people, Mexican people, white people, it don't matter who it is at this point, because I really don't think race really has anything to I mean, we're more prone, but
Concur.
I believe that race is actually out the window.
Yeah, it is.
When you have these systems in place that allows people not to grow up, and that's literally what it is. You're providing them food, shelter with Section 8, even vouchers with electricity. Well, they're not. They're not. They know that they can mess up, and the government will take care of them. Well, that's part of socialism. So it's the black problem. I mean, if you want to call it that, to me, it's just we need I've said this before. We need the father back in the household to start teaching these kids, because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well,
you're right.
Here, let me say this, and I think you're right, but I just feel like we're way past all that at this point. Like, we're facing real major issues right now with our society, because I'm amazed by how many people out there really buy into this stuff, and I think a lot of them don't really know what they're buying into necessarily. They're kind of ignorant to it, but a lot of people have been kind of indoctrinated with this guilt all of our lives for generations now, that we just feel like that's the path of least resistance and that we should follow it. But it's scary because these things that they believe are not true. We all know, everybody here, we all know a lot of this stuff is not true, or at least it's very debatable. At least, right? There's other factors that could be at play that we can acknowledge and debate about. But it's just like, it's like a cult thing with these people. And that's dangerous to me. Like, what? So if if Trump wins the election, or at least at the beginning, and then 9 days later, they're like, oh, all the mail-in ballots came in and Biden wins. Like, what do you guys think is going to happen? What do you think if just Trump wins flat out? Like, I'm just worried because they have basically an army of zealots now, and how far will this go?
If Trump still wins despite all of this,
are race relations just done? Because I don't hate anybody, and yet I feel like now I'm on the side of supposedly, the white supremacist horde. So
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I agree. I know what you're talking about, because I got a foot in both worlds. We know that. So the deal is the white people, what they're trying to do is to get white people to hate black people by presenting black people as these crazy bastards that are in the streets yelling at everybody.
I don't even think it's black people mostly. I feel like it's mostly white people out there doing
It is, but what I'm saying is, listen, what I'm trying to say is they will put the narrative out there that, look, the media's putting the narrative out there that all these people are black. You understand? And that's what they're sticking with. If they're sticking with that because all the little white pasty kids are all got all this black on them, and we know who's breaking the windows and everything else like that. They go up, they bust the windows, and they get them looking. These people are looting. Shouldn't we all hate black people? You know what I mean? They're trying to get normal people to hate black people. That way that fits their narrative, because otherwise it doesn't fit their narrative and they don't get the race war.
That's for sure, man. I feel like in terms of, I mean, if you're talking about what exactly people are being engineered to see.
Manipulated,
Yeah, so in the media, when we see all the crimes that are being perpetuated, I think that it's very clear to see who exactly is doing it, and it's really a mix of everyone. I really do think that's what I've been seeing, at least. I don't think that
we all know.
Make it.
No. You misunderstand what I'm saying. We all see that. The media is trying to make it seem like they're all black, and blacks are just being, look at them. They can't even have a peaceful protest.
They can't even get an ID to vote. Like, it's like, what?
Right,
I'm pretty sure they can.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we was discussing earlier. They was saying that black people don't have IDs. Black people don't have cars to go to the polling stations and vote. They're just too stupid to go know who to vote for. We got to tell them. Blah blah.
So Drone, you had made the point where you was like, it's scary that people still think this way. Well, you gotta remember, I didn't wake up until actually really like 2017 going into 2018 because of all the research that I did, and it's a veil. It's hard to describe. It's literally just a veil that's over your eye. You don't see. You just know that what the Democrats are saying are right and what the Republicans are doing is wrong. That's just all you know. And you only watch CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
You literally, this is what you know. And you stick to that regimen.
Well, it's
and
even more,
and then when you start to absorb more knowledge, like Joe Rogan, for example, and you start to see, I mean, it's like, oh my God, your world literally comes crashing down.
Yeah. I mean,
I can tell you that it's quite much.
I'm sorry. I've told people before, I used to be like a self-hating white left-wing liberal. I mean, I was like the stereotype. Too? Oh yeah. I literally hate. Look, I grew up listening to like gangster rap and stuff, and I know that sounds really cheesy, but I had this like hoopty car with neons on it in the system, and that's just who I identified with, right? And I was kind of picked on, and I hung out with the other the few minority kids at my school. And
we got to see a picture of that.
Anyway, right? Oh yeah, I even had my hair in braids at one point. I even had my hair in braids. It was bad. It was bad.
We got to see a picture of that.
I don't know.
We got to get a picture of that.
There used to be a picture
on the Discord. On the Discord, we got to see a picture of that.
But
Come on now.
Hey, Ryan, you're not the only one. I've had my hair in plaits and cornrows many times.
Oh,
Get out!
I mean, so,
you too? Oh my God!
But look, my point is like, how did that? Like, why did I get that way? Like, why was I like that? I have no idea. Like, and I never knew like anybody that was racist or anything. And it's like, but but that's what started to kind of wake me up, because I'm like, the way history is taught. It's in everything, really. It's like history. Yeah, history is taught very like narrowly and very cherry picked. And it's funny because they say, oh, it's whitewashed, but really, if you learn more about just the slave trade and stuff like that worldwide, you wouldn't like hate your own country as much. You know what I mean? If there was just a little bit more like context added there.
Yeah.
But that
it's more like anti-whitewashed.
Right. And but to what you were saying, Bricks, it's just like, I just asked, how did we all get to that point in the first place? And you know what I think really started probably the dominoes for all of us was starting to see what the media and stuff wasn't telling us, but then seeing that like it's out there and it's real, but they just don't want to talk about it for some reason.
Well, I've told you my story. I hated Trump but I needed to know why I hated him. So I started researching, and that was my story. To answer your first question, for me, I was raised this way. See, black people raise their kids to vote Democrat. So for us, it's ingrained in us to that's why it's very rare for us to vote Republican, because we are literally that indoctrinated where our children are taught to vote them. I remember my dad telling me, don't you ever vote Republican. Ever.
Hey, Brick,
I remember that.
But the weird part about that is most black people that I have known in my lifetime are raised with conservative values.
Well, yeah, we always heard, and yeah, absolutely.
I tell you, I have been able to red pill a handful of people by simply sending them to isidewith.com. And I tell them, go take this quiz, fill out this questionnaire, and see who it tells you that you most align with, and it's going to blow your mind. And I've done this. Like I had a coworker who, just like what you were saying, I would have conversations with him about non-political stuff, and he's super duper conservative, but he didn't even realize that he was conservative because his whole life he'd been told, vote Democrat.
Correct.
That's what you do.
Yeah, okay. Correct.
So I had him go to I Side With and take the survey, and it turned out, and he lost his mind. It turned out that 94% he aligned with Trump.
I know now that's his red pill moment then.
Yes.
So you know what the thing is, like, a lot of this comes from...
he was so pissed at me because he was convinced that I Side With is a right-wing conspiracy website. I'm like, no, it's not. If you go through and you answer it with liberal leanings, it's going to side you with liberal candidates. But you went through, you answered it honestly, and you were raised with conservative values, but you've been voting for people your whole life who don't support your values.
That's deep.
And
that's deep.
Yeah.
Part of it is just blind faith versus belief, right? Like, I mean, there's always the red pill moment that pulls the trigger, but you really start feeling that burn of that wound when you start realizing, like, hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense. You want to rationalize things. So for me, like, I always used to go by like this, like, I know something, but do I understand it? And then I have faith in something because I feel it, but can I rationalize it? When I rationalize it, then I have belief. Then I'm going to swear by it. But a lot of people don't do that because it's really about faith. I want to feel something. And so faith is what drags you towards something you want to feel. And a lot of that is going to be emotional. And I think there was something else you were saying before. It was, you were talking about, like, how we were raised, a lot of us, and we're told what to go towards. Like, you were saying, like, you were, how would someone else say, like, appropriating black culture, for example, right?
Right, yeah.
In India, so I'm an Indian American, like, I mean, I'm American, but in India, we have a strong term called seculars. Now, India is supposed to be a secular nation, but what we have is in the left in India has been playing a very, very horrific religious game, pitting Christians, Muslims, and Hindus against each other. And Hindus call them seculars because they're abusing the basic tenets that even we know to be, good for a country. Just try and, try to work off of rationale. People have their own private beliefs and all that. And they use it in a way to dominate and withhold the liberties of the majority population. So that's appeasement politics, and that's basically what's going on. We don't see that because appeasement is something that we want to feel. It's not something that we want to think about. And therefore, that red pill moment is, a lot of the time, I think, is going to be what you start feeling. Is that same kind of shock, emotional, the impressions that you're about to see, and then like, oh crap, it's like someone slapped you in the face. But the same way you got to slap that child, then they shut up and look at you, and they're a bit more attentive to what exactly you're about to say. When you school your child, you're going to actually say something that they're now more attentive to. They're going to understand it, going to internalize it. So that red pill moment, I hope we all get it. But the rationale that has to come afterwards has to be followed through, And that's unfortunate. I think that's the element that the left has been putting out both in India and in the United States, is the appeasement factor that slides under our skin, and we don't even see it coming before we even get into politics.
Yeah, you're right. The appeasement factor is a huge problem. I mean, that's what's going on right now, and that like it just stifles any debate. You can't. It's like their position is just sort of accepted, and you can't even talk about any of it because doing so makes you a racist if you even talk about certain topics. So that's why I laugh when anybody talks about a conversation. We want to have an honest conversation. It's like, fuck off. No, you don't. Not at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
They want to make everything taboo.
John, I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up because Michael Knowles was saying it's the reason why we can't really speak to anyone on the left, or even when you present them with facts and stuff like that, it's because it's more of a cult. It's just like they literally just refuse to see, and you're telling them, and it's like, okay, that's not what the facts say. Like, black people are not being hunted down in the streets by white police officers. That just throw that out the window. That's not what's happening. That when that guy comes, leaves his wife and children or whomever, and he goes to work, his agenda is not saying how many black people can I kill today. That is not what's happening. So but if you listen to the media or just the narrative that's being pushed, you would think that. Even my mom used to say, even when I was growing up back in the 80s and 90s, be careful out there. They killing us. Well, no, they're not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like the talk. What was it? Real quick, I saw it was Trump interviewed, or somebody asked him a question. They were like, what do you have to say about, the black American families have to give their children this talk where they tell them they're going to be killed by police? It's like, you tell them that's insane, and it's like not true, and you're actually like making the problem way worse by doing that. Like, why doesn't he? Yeah. That's another of my things. Like, why does nobody question that? Clearly, the answer is so obvious here. It is because there is no systemic racism, because guess what? There is legal recourse if you're being racially discriminated against.
Correct.
If police, if police arrest you and it's unlawful, sue the shit out of them. I've talked about this before. That is the smart way. Like, why are we acting like black people are incapable of not fighting police?
Well, my dad had a talk with me about police officers when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in rural southeast Texas.
Yeah, I was told to respect them, and that's pretty much
it. Exactly. I was told you use your manners with that police officer. You say yes, sir, no, sir. If it's a lady cop, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and you give them the information that they're asking for. You cooperate, and you're going to get your ticket, or you're going to get arrested, or whatever the case may be, and you're going to have to handle whatever you got pulled over for.
Be a man about what you did.
Exactly. And I mean, that being said, I mean, I've never been in trouble with the law, but like people talk about like your heart rate getting up when you get pulled over by a police officer, and black people being scared. I mean, I'm not going to lie, when I get pulled over, yeah, my heart rate elevates a little bit because I know that I fucked up.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, every time.
See, and here's the problem. Just like you said, your father is the one that had that talk with you. And
right back.
This goes back to what Bricks was saying, the father's being taken out of the home.
Yep.
You have a lot of these black youths that are growing up without the father figure, without knowing
Thomas saying that for 20 years? Larry Elder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Larry Elder has been saying that for a while. Yeah.
He's been saying it for a long time.
But if you try to say this to them, you know what's going to happen, right? Another branch of the left is going to come out and say, "Oh, why is it about the fathers?" Then the crazy feminist wave is going to start coming in. So I'm saying, like, that surely can't be the issue, because we have a counter.
Well, look at BLM. BLM is actively trying to remove fathers from the household.
Yeah. And here's a crazy one. So. Here's the crazy one. 4 years ago, Don Lemon was saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Listen, it's funny because I've been sitting here the whole time waiting for my turn to speak to tell you guys about what really red-pilled me. It was a long time ago because I'm an old man. Like, I'm a really old guy. And it was whenever they started kicking black fathers out of the household that really did it for me. Now, I grew up in Detroit, where it was against the law whenever I was a young boy for the black man and the white girl to be together. It's against the law. And it didn't bother me at all. I loved it. You know what I mean? I love seeing that. What really hurt me was whenever they started taking the black man out of the household for the families to get any kind of public assistance to be able to move forward or whatever.
Yeah.
And back there, it was for people used it to move forward. They didn't use it as a way of life. Now it's a way of life because they stuck them there. They got rid of the guy that actually going to go out and make the money. Listen, we got to face it. It used to be the man used to go out and make the money, and the women used to stay home. That's what was in my time. And that was the black families weren't living like they are now. They had nice, beautiful homes and everything, and everybody was moving forward. And then these so-called Democrats, they was like, well, we're very articulate, and let us tell you the way you need to be. You need to be without that man, and we'll take care of you and your kids. We got you. Go ahead and get the divorce. You don't need to be even married. All you white girls out there that feel you're depressed or whatever, you don't even need to be married to this guy. We'll put you up in this public housing and all this shit. Whenever they started doing that, that's what wrecked the family. It hurt me. That hurt me so much watching that. Watching the black families being broke up in front of my eyes killed my sense of any. I had hatred for them since then. Go ahead.
This is bloody excellent, because that means they also eliminated transgenerational thinking. You eliminate people from that earlier on. How are they going to be able to pass that down to the subsequent generations, like the ones on the streets right now? You've got no father role, you've got no wife role. I mean, the wife is there because she was left there alone, but then what element did she really play? She was just a caretaker at that point, because you enabled her to not do anything.
35 years ago they did this? What was that? You're talking about you're talking about some time here, you know?
Yeah, it's potentially 2 generations of children.
Yeah, I've watched all this. It's very hard for me, very hard. But back then, it was what red pilled me, and I was like, I will never vote for another Democrat as long as they come up with these crazy ideas of getting rid of the father.
I just wonder, like, why some of these these groups haven't realized that, you know, they're on the side of the establishment, the corporations, and all these things that were super evil not long ago, just last week, you know, and the media and stuff. It's like these people are just parroting what you say. Like, I'm sure it's wonderful when they see it as it's very powerful, but how can they not see that they're just being used, really? I mean, 'cause it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing is that if you speak to an idiot, right, the idiot really, really believes in what they're doing. After a certain point, I'm starting to think that the Democrats actually don't realize, in some brunt of the population, what kind of atrocities they've really done, and how, in such an evil way, it had to be engineered to happen the way it did. So because they don't know, and you speak to them, and they keep on virtue signaling, you're going to start to believe that, oh, these people really do have my interests at heart. And I think that's the problem, because when you cater to millennials who don't have that much experience to begin with, it's easier for them to be brainwashed by niceties.
Yeah, it just seems like people are being groomed almost. It's so crazy.
It's not that they're idiots. Rex is not an idiot, and he just till not that long ago that he was right. He thought that he was right. We think that we're right because of the way we think. We group think. That's the way people are, right, Rex? We all group think. He's right on that.
Well, it's not that I thought that I was right. It was what I was. Well, yeah, right. Okay, I guess you could say that. I mean, that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
So and then everyone around you thinks the same.
Correct.
That's why I brought up my earlier point about it being like a cult, because even when you present individuals with facts, they ignore it. They don't want to see it. They don't believe, because everything that they've been taught, it's a lie. It becomes a lie, and I mean, that's your world. That is your world. So I have to agree with you with that. I mean, that's just what I was taught.
But you're by no means an idiot, right?
No, a lot of those people that left aren't idiots. I wouldn't classify them as idiots. I would classify them as individuals that are very capable of understanding what's going on, but just can't see. They can't see. But my biggest thing is when I be trying to talk to people like on Facebook, or I don't do it anymore, but when I try to convince my friends or whatever on Facebook and Twitter, And the example I gave yesterday, where she read the headline, and in the headline it said, two white people not killed, but shot at two black people, one being the father, one being the son. But then when you read the article, it says that they were in the article. Race, the reporter asked, "Hey, did race have anything to do with it?" She was like, "No, we've been getting robbed like every other night for our gasoline. So when we seen that truck pull up, we started shooting. We didn't know if they were black or anything." I showed that to my Facebook friend, and she literally said this. With everything that's going on, I still can't believe it. The post still stands. No, I'm not taking it down. And I was like, it's sitting in the, what do you mean? She was like, no,
denial, right?
No,
Denial.
Hard to undo childhood indoctrination.
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's literally the last time I'm trying to convince somebody. I'm done. It's over.
Breck. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's Heaven's Gate, bro. It is Heaven's Gate. Everybody is. Listen, maybe you don't know about Heaven's Gate. They were a cult, and they all killed themselves. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But and they all thought they were going to go get on a comet.
Yeah,
You have to look at it this way. Anybody can be groomed and taught. You're talking about 38 years. I taught your parents how to think. Now your parents taught you how to think. You understand? That's the way it works. That's the way grooming works. They're constantly grooming people to think, yes, we are the right way to think. And yes, you are idiots. Because they think you are idiots. They do. And the way everything that they say, you don't have a driver's license, you don't know where to go vote, you're being oppressed. By them saying that, they are saying that you are an idiot, that they can easily groom you. You understand what I'm trying to say? Go ahead, anybody else?
I think I should probably quickly clarify what I meant earlier. When I was talking about idiots, I specifically meant the Democratic staff, because, and I probably shouldn't have said idiots. I think less informed about the things they actually did. Mm-hmm. So, I bet they have a much lackluster understanding.
Yeah, I understand what you meant.
Yeah. So, they wouldn't know, right, that they actually did something wrong because they don't understand the fundamentals of policy and how the system works to begin with, or even basic morality. So when they don't realize that, you can easily convince another person who is trying to learn that, we really didn't do anything wrong. So we still genuinely do believe that we're trying to help all of you, but they don't understand that what they're doing is actually going to damage everyone themselves.
They haven't been red-pilled themselves, just like Rex was saying. They have not. He was red-pilled, and whenever he was red-pilled, he realized that right then he stopped grooming other people. Now he's trying to show them the light. He's actually, just like you said, he's putting the Facebooks out there. He's trying to show other people the light. He's trying to lift the veil for them, the veil of lies that have been put in front of it. We all know Chris Cuomo and CNN go on nightly and lie to people. Chris Cuomo lied to people whenever he said only CNN can look at these emails that belong to Hillary Clinton. It's against the law for everybody else to look at them. Did you love that? That's one of their news guys. He should have been fired for saying that. Right? Who agrees with that? Should he been fired for that? Yes. He told a factual lie on the news, so-called news, right? Yeah. And nightly they got there.
So because you keep using the word grooming, and I like me personally, I don't know if that's what it is. It's more, there may be those that are higher up that may groom, but it's when you kind of have to understand, it's more of a group think.
Yes.
It's just but that's not grooming. It's just how you think. It's what you were, it's how you're brought up. It's what you learn in school, in academia. It's not,
especially when you're young, and that's just the way you've been brought up. It's like, remember how fiercely you defended either the Sega Genesis or the Nintendo, and it's just because that's what you had, and you felt a need
right. Well, yeah.
And you didn't ever want to, but you felt a need to defend your parents, and most people have trouble once they're pretty invested in something, letting go of that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to ever admit that they're wrong. And I mean, I think we all need to sort of realize that.
Yeah.
See, man, we got a lot of people in chat talking.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to say, just like Michael Jackson said, take a look at the man in the mirror.
Totally, man. I mean, you know, my whole thing of like realizing that a lot of the stuff I had really believed in was total bullshit has made me a lot more, pretty much skeptical of everything always. You might say paranoid, but I'm just, even my own views. I'm constantly. It's like, you know, Trump does say a lot of dumb shit and, you know, all this kind of thing. And I don't think Trump is perfect by any means. I mean, I literally, as far as Trump goes, I think that he definitely, I think he has good intentions. So I don't think that we're like on the side of evil or anything like that. But, you know, it's like, what choice do we have? You know, I got this picture of the armed forces of the Philippines, this picture they just posted, burning a hammer and sickle flag. And it's like, that's, you know, in our country right now, that flag's rising up. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Rob's live stream earlier, and I agree with a lot of what he was saying about all the same topic. You know, I can criticize Trump, you know, very easily, you know, and the main thing has been the lockdown. Like, I don't like how this whole lockdown situation has become at all. Like, he's done nothing but listen to the Democrats and listen to Fauci and all these people. Like, he's listening to the wrong people, you know, and so I can criticize him for that. I don't like how this whole lockdown situation has come.
Well,
Period.
you know, it's
At all. But other than that, I think he's been doing a pretty good job, honestly, in my opinion.
Felipe Cardona asks, "What do y'all think about Trump pushing
I think he's doing
vaccine?
a hell of a job. Next. Shit.
Hey,
Next.
USDA stamped.
He's doing a hell of a job. Next.
I think he's doing a hell of a job.
USDA stamped.
Right. He's fine with me. I know one thing. I don't want Biden up in there. So, I mean, hey.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, man.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Felipe Cardona asks, "What do you all think about Trump pushing the vaccine? Do y'all think it's just lip service?"
Oh, bad idea.
Yeah, shouldn't
Bad
push
idea.
it.
Yeah.
See,
Well,
Honestly, I
they're
think
saying
it's
that
lip
he's-
service.
They're saying that
That's
he's going
Fauci.
against the WHO mandated vaccine.
Right.
though.
how do you feel about that?
Well, that's
I think
I
that's
think
a step
that's
in the right
Fauci.
direction.
I think it's Fauci that is the one that's pushing all that,
Yep.
because he's been flip-flopping so much that
Oh,
it's
you heard me?
ridiculous.
Sorry.
You're fine.
We can hear you now.
I hate to interrupt if I'm talking to myself. I don't actually like to interrupt if I'm interrupting in general, but if I'm talking to myself, it's really embarrassing to think we're just being ignored because people don't want to hear you is different than being ignored because they can't hear you.
Well, feel free to chime in. So you're welcome to.
Well, I have no problem with the vaccine if it A is safer than the actual disease and B is not mandated, where it's a tool of control, which seems to be the direction they're pushing.
Well, it's
I agree with
everything. It's like everything anymore. I struggle sometimes. Like, it's funny. I used to years ago try to like really anchor myself and not let myself start to believe that the craziest things are happening. But it's like, am I alone? It's kind of hard anymore to do that. I mean,
my mother, who is much older and has much more experience, literally says every day, "I have never seen it like this." And this is a woman who, like, yeah, she lived through World War II. Well, she was a kid during that, but World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War, everything. She's like, I every day, it's so much worse than worse than I've ever seen it. So it's not just you, and it's not your imagination.
Oh yeah, my mom is like super duper religious, and she's been saying for probably about 5 or 6 years that she's convinced that the end times are near based on biblical scripture. And I've just been like, okay, Mom, whatever. Well, as all this crap is happening, I'm like, yeah, oh, maybe Mom's onto something. Shit's really getting weird.
Well, and did you see the thing where someone said Kyle Rittenhouse is a saint, and they came up with like a list of reasons? It was extremely moving.
The name that shall not be mentioned. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Well, in some places, yeah, that's what. Well, did you see? Okay, so this is the comparison that scares me. Vice came out with a documentary on the guy who murdered a Trump supporter in Portland. Because theoretically, I thought on the Lam, where he's like, I had to do it. People don't understand. He's like, Kyle Rittenhouse has a valid reason for what he did. You can't even discuss him.
Yeah. I don't want to cut you off, but I would like to steer the discussion over that because I'm glad you brought that up, because I just saw that this guy, why is he not arrested? Why is he not in prison?
Yeah.
And he gets to get up there on Vice and say, what did he claim, that the guy had a knife or something?
He said he thought
that he and his friend were about.
How could that be possible? We've all seen the video, and they just spot him and then shoot him. It's literally like 2 seconds.
Well, and how are they not going after Vice for harboring a fugitive? To my mind, I'm like, how are they not arresting?
Is he a fugitive still? I was wondering why he's sitting on a log. That's what I was wondering earlier.
That's just it. You can't find much coverage about it, which is also creepy.
Right? Like, what's up with that? We went from so look at how they lionize Charlottesville. It's in our memories every day. They pound it for years to come. Joe Biden and the rest of them lie about it constantly because of the good people thing. But then this, and we all knew that was going to happen. We all knew it. I knew it.
And everybody can tell you everything about Darren Roof, but nobody can tell you. In fact, most people can't name the church in Texas where a guy went in and killed a bunch of white people, more white people.
Right. Well, what about, remember the newscast? Remember the newscast guy? The lady was doing a live newscast and he literally just murdered her and the cameraman. And
yeah. But the shooter was black, so they didn't really want to. Or they didn't want to
kill white
people.
And he wanted to kill white people.
Yeah, well, they had a woman in what part of Colorado? She didn't like gentrification and she murdered her white neighbor. And then they went into her home. She had like grenades. She had a lot of journals with some very disturbing things about how many white people she wanted to kill. They brushed that under the Malika, whatever her name was. She was a very disturbed individual, but I think there's a lot of her out there. She's just the one who got to act on it. Luckily, not to the extent she clearly was planning on acting on it.
Well, what happens, and I've been searching for this freaking interview
Malika
forever.
Griffin, sorry.
Oh, no, you're
remembered
good.
her name.
There's an interview. I've been doing this shit forever, and there was an interview forever ago where somebody asked this journalist why they don't report, why the headlines don't emphasize race when it's white or black on white, or why don't they, show these stories of black and white violence. And her answer was that, or how they do when it's a Muslim, when a Muslim was behind the attack, they cover that. The reason and I think that's what it was
violence,
actually
every time.
Right. Right, and I think that's actually what the context of the question was. But she said that they don't because they don't want any negative backlash on that community. Right, so if that's the case, if that's the logic, then they must want
backlash on white people.
Right,
no
they
problem.
definitely want negative backlash
and
on white
police.
people.
My God, they're basically painting a target on every law enforcement person, and they make no attempt to hide the fact that facts themselves mean nothing. Mm-hmm. That's very upsetting.
If you're watching this, guys, that's an Antifa encampment. Apparently, this guy recorded. He was like wondering how these people are riding like every night, like where are they coming from? And he found this encampment, and literally like he started spotting people he's seeing the riots. He's like, oh shit, that's what this is, and they start shooting slingshots.
Trumpet guy.
Yeah, trumpet guy. Exactly. I think that's pretty crazy. And he said the city is basically funding that, so that's wild.
Mm-hmm. I seen that earlier.
How people can live there, I do not know.
Because they're all a bunch of fucking
they're all
like rat dogs. They're just like all a bunch of like fucking weirdos.
Well, I mean, in
drug
Portland
addicts.
in general, there's got to be normal people left in Portland. How after months of this are they still cowering in their holes and not how is the city still functioning? I guess is my
Well,
It is
before you
quite
had joined
weird
the
because
conversation,
Portland is a
I
tiny
think it had
city.
something to do with more of an indoctrination. It's they literally accept this as just how it is, and they feel that if they go against the grain, then they are now the rhetoric that they've been spewing. You know, the Nazis or whatever.
They're
So
part of the problem.
they're part. So if they start going against the grain, then who are they? The enemy now? It's just like the
rid of each other. They're
it's just like the Bolsheviks and stuff like that back in the USSR and stuff, or where people of the secret police, where people were just scared to talk, scared to speak up, because these people will come to your house. Do you want these people coming to your house banging and trying to set it on fire? Well, the answer is no. So,
you know, but they've shown them attacking houses with Black Lives Matter flags in the windows. So it's not even, I guess that's the other part of the mentality. I'm like, first off, you have to, I would think at this point, they would have to start to recognize that, oh my God, these people are the Nazis. They are the brown shirts. They are the fascists. They're not, you know, no matter what they call themselves. And and do they not notice too? Did no one read Orwell? I'm the sheep. Does nobody sitting in Portland going, oh my God, I'm one of the sheep?
Listen, those people that are staying in that little encampment there will do whatever they're told to.
Those people, yeah, I have no hope that you're going to persuade them. But are no normal people left in Portland, or like the people at the restaurants who raise their hands? I'm like, there's nobody who has their hand in the air as a bunch of people scream at this one poor woman who says, "I'm not doing that." Think, oh my God, I'm the person who put on the Nazi uniform rather than saying this is wrong. I'm not the person who hit Anne Frank. Does nobody stop and go, oh, wait, she's the one who hit Anne Frank, and we're all the assholes?
Yeah, right. The thing is, I can't wait for people to wake up and go, who is paying? Who is giving them all the drugs? Who's doing that?
Well, you remember in California, they gave them drugs in the hotel, and they said it wasn't coming from taxpayer money, and then somebody narked them out, and they were like, "Oh, well, it is, but that's okay."
Somebody's giving them the drugs. Somebody gives. They're all sleeping. That's okay. It's daytime. They're all in the tent sleeping. They only come out at night. That's what junkies do. So I want to know who's giving them the junk, and I want to know who's giving them the food and
Soros
propping them up right there.
But it's not just them. I don't think just the people from the homeless camps and the druggies are the ones doing this. I have to believe that there's also reinforcements coming from the homes of suburbanites, and parents are saying, "Okay, here's your little black balaclava and your little homemade shield. You have fun storming the castle tonight."
That's what I'm saying. Somebody's making the shields and everything for them. That's what my point is.
It's all
they've
kinds of
already
weaponry,
reported that in Minneapolis they were busing people in.
Yeah. Well, and then what about the pallets of bricks that mysteriously showed up in a bunch of these cities
and
hours before the riots and the looting started?
Barr was talking about,
There's got to be a paper trail. Somebody had to have paid not only for the bricks but for the delivery and all that stuff.
Well, and there has to be communication between them and the DA, because it's a very big spider web. You also have a DA who's saying, well, we're going to let people go pretty much no matter what.
Barr was talking about the flights that they took, the flights that they were on. They were all on several flights together, going from one state to the other state. And he was saying that he wanted to know who was paying for those flights.
Real quick,
I just want to say goodbye to Puppy Lord. He's got to take off. Really enjoyed your input, man. So I would like it if you, anytime you want to be here, you're very welcome.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Yeah, definitely.
I missed that while I was trying to figure out why my microphone refused to work. Sorry, I missed everything.
And actually, Drone and everybody, I'm going to head out as well.
Yeah, I'm going to actually wrap this up. Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. I wanted to kind of keep it to an hour because I am worn out, guys. So I don't know if I think I told you guys this, but I don't have babysitters anymore because one school's starting and one of my babysitters is a teacher, and my other grandma's just like done because my kids are getting to be a handful, and she's watching like my other brother's kids. So like it's like mom and dad at home working with the kids all day, every day. So.
Can I say one thing before you left? Just because it's very important. The other day we were not praising Hitler. That was I would like to make that
Right.
abundantly clear.
Nobody here is pro Hitler.
It was very weird that he tried to say because we were actually having a very nice exchange, and that he would say that was like, I think we would started to ignore him because he was not being pleasant. And so he just, after a while, he just I'm like, please don't think we were praising Hitler. Please don't think that. That was not the nature of the conversation. I'm anti-Hitler. I just wanted to establish that before you went to bed.
That's funny.
Not all. What's up, Dry Rot? Welcome.
What up?
I think we're wrapping this up, but as far as the live stream goes, but hey, I'll be hanging out in here, and everybody's welcome to hang out. We can keep talking. Anybody who's watching the live stream right now, you guys are welcome to come over to Discord and continue the discussion with us. I do appreciate everybody coming. I'm gonna make these live streams better and better as we go, but I just kind of want to get in the habit of doing it every Thursday. It's going to be hit or miss. That's just what it's going to be, But thank you, everybody, for coming and watching. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys all next Thursday. Thanks.
I like sharing is caring. I like getting in here and talking to everybody.